Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters, the podcast.
You're amazing. You need to come to Hollywood. I'm going to make you famous.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
There's just like security guards with like M16 holding like fans back.
Are you kidding me?
I continually will get stopped.
Can I take a picture? We're going to, oh my God.
I definitely declined signing body parts.
Oh, I don't want to go there.
I'm the only one that's ever spit on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this week it's our 25th episode.
Yay!
That's like the 6-month time frame. So we've been doing this show now for 6 months, and it's been growing every month. It's been very encouraging to see our subscription numbers and our streaming numbers go up every single month. So
We thank all of you for that.
yeah, thank you. And we want some help to continue. So if you would please share our show with your friend, maybe they'll share it with their friend. We can make something go viral. That's one thing I'm always surprised. You get all these dumb videos. Do you know what the most watched things on YouTube are?
Cats, I think.
No, even worse. It's these people who have channels where they open up toys.
Oh, yes, I did know that.
Oh,
That
give me a
is
break.
exactly why that LOL
Yeah.
doll came out.
Oh,
I
really?
watched a whole segment on that man was fascinated that people were opening up presents and toys online and that all these people were watching. And so that LOL doll is a ball you purchase. And you literally pull a plastic zipper and one layer comes off and you get a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pull the next zipper and a layer comes off and you get a second piece. And by the end of it, you have like a note, some stickers, some accessories, some clothes, and a doll.
Right. Yeah, that was a hot
Because-
item at Christmas in our house.
Yes, because of those toys being opened online and he saw the number of hits that it was getting.
Why didn't I think of that? Because I've been forced by my children to watch these opening up all this stuff, and I'm like, these videos are so dumb.
Right.
So speaking of going viral, please help us out. Share the show with your friends, and if you do, we will give you a shout out on a future episode. And if you have ways in which we can grow our audience, we're always looking for suggestions, so you can email us at hello@fancounters.com. Now, this week on the show, since it's the 25th show, Elizabeth and I got together and we thought, what can we do to make sure that our fans don't miss the best moments of our episodes?
Right.
So we thought, since we're fan counters and our hook of the show really is to have celebrities talk about their encounters with fans, that we would kind of do a mashup and play the celebrity encounters and just do that portion
Right.
for you. So since we're going to do the show and just play those celebrity encounters for you, let's start with our favorites. Elizabeth, which one sticks out in your mind as your favorite fan encounter?
Oh, hands down, the one I thought was the funniest was Ellington Ratliff from R5. Oh my gosh. That was the story of the teenager that popped her eyeball out to show that it had a Chicago Blackhawks tattoo on the back. And then one by one, the boys in the band all came out to look at it. That by far is my favorite.
This next story I'm going to tell with, I don't know, it's kind of, here we go.
All right, come on.
We're
bring
in
it up.
Chicago. I'm going to tell you this story. It's going to sound crazy, but there's a theme to it. So,
Okay.
We're in Chicago. My grandma lives in Wisconsin, so she came down. We went to dinner, and we came back around like 3 a.m. And there's these fans outside still, and we're like, "What? What are you like? It's 3 a.m. What are you guys doing? I don't want you guys to be, standing outside for 5 hours waiting for us. That sucks,
Right.
for you guys." And so anyway, but they do it. That's just what they do. They like it. I don't know. So this one girl comes up to I guess Riker, and Riker just came. She came up to Riker, and he said, "Riker, have you ever seen a 14-year-old with a tattoo?" And he was like, "No, I haven't." And he was thinking it would be like her mom like let her get a tattoo, like signed off on it, like, oh, I got, a Hello Kitty tattoo, haha.
Yeah.
And so she proceeds to take her finger into her eye, and she pulls her eye out.
What?
And she turns it around, and she had like a what's the hockey team in Chicago?
The Blackhawks.
She had a Blackhawks tattoo on the back of her eyeball. And he was like, whoa, that's cool. Like trying to keep it together, on the inside. And she
wow.
and she did it like multiple times throughout the day. Or not throughout the day. So Riker came out, he came in and was like, oh my God, I gotta tell you what just happened. And then and then the other brothers came in from wherever they were, and same thing happened. They were like, Joe, did you see? Oh my
gosh.
So I missed it. I go outside, and she's like, hey, Ellington, have you seen a 14-year-old with a tattoo? And I'm like, no, but I heard about it. God, I wasn't ready for it. And then she didn't do it for me, so I didn't have to go through the shock and awe. But so here comes the silver lining. She was kind of like the whole time. She was like, when you have a glass eyeball, it's got to, you got to be comfortable with it. She was like very comfortable with the fact that she has this fake eye. And then she said she would do things like she would take your eyeball out and like place it on like someone's hand and would say, I got my eye on you.
Oh,
I was like, wow, you are like, I have to like, okay, on the reality of the situation, it's a little strange, it's a little crazy, but on the other side of the situation, I applaud her for being so comfortable with something that, most people, like a lot of people would have a hard time with.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's why, I always have like reservations about telling the story because I feel bad, but like at the same time, she's like probably the most confident girl I've ever met in that regard, because if I had a glass eyeball, I don't know if I could do what she did.
Yeah, so that encounter at the time we had said was the one that took the cake. It was like the top fan encounter. Now, the one that sticks out for me was with Michael McGrady. He was on episode number 1 of Fancounters, and he really gave us a look at what it was like to be a celebrity, because he was just taking photos with fans and realized that could have dire consequences.
I remember when I did The Babe, I was relatively young. I was new at it all, and we had a set publicist that was there. There was a bunch of these extras had come over, and there was about 5 or 6, and some of them were pretty attractive and stuff, and they had come over, and they wanted to take pictures with me, and like kissing me on the cheek and wrapping their arms around me, and one wanted to sit on my shoulders and all this stuff. And I'm over there eating it up because I'm a young man, and I'm thinking, this is great, although I'm a young married man. And so the publicist comes running over, and he's screaming at me, waving his arms, and he read me the riot act right there in front of all these extras. He says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just taking pictures with the fans here and stuff. He goes, no. And he bawled them all out. He said, go back to your seats. This is wrong. I'm going to come by and get all your film from you. And, this is before even cell phones back then. And he made this big deal out of that. And I said, what was that all about, man? And I thought we were supposed to be friendly. And he goes, Michael, you don't know where those pictures are going to end up. What if your wife sees you with some 2 or 3 girls hanging on you and kissing on you and stuff? How is that going to make her feel? What if that gets out there in a magazine somewhere or something? And I thought, oh, God, I didn't even think about that. It was a lesson that, So a lot of times this stuff can be used out of context.
Before we move away from Michael McGrady, he also told one other story that stuck out in my mind, Elizabeth, about the fan who wouldn't settle for 6 autographs. Like that wasn't enough, and then threatens him. Let's check that out.
I actually had a really weird experience one time. I was in Atlanta. Yeah, I was in Atlanta, and I was shooting a TV series there. The trailers where our dressing rooms were actually across the street from this Italian restaurant where we were shooting the scene. And I had gotten dressed, and I was getting ready to walk across the street, and there was a police officer there escorting all the actors across the street into the restaurant. And as I came out, there was a mob of people that were on the sidewalk that were being held back by a couple of police officers. and they're screaming my name, right? And I looked over, and they all had posters and photographs and pictures. And so I always go over and take a few selfies and sign a few things and whatnot. And so I signed a number of posters and photographs and stuff. And then this one particular individual, he kept handing me more and more pictures, and I kept pushing him away because I'd already signed like a half a dozen of them for him. And whenever they say, I always say, who's it to? And when they say, oh, nobody, just sign it, then I know they're just going to try to sell it on eBay or whatever. So it's not a personal thing. It's a monetary thing. So I don't take it that seriously. In fact, a lot of times I won't even sign it because, like, yeah, come on, that's cheesy.
Right.
But I signed this thing. And then there were people that were really, truly wanting to, to Debbie, please, and to Sandra, and to Jim. And so I was doing that. And then I pushed him away, and he got mouthy with me. And I looked at him, and I said, hey, man, I signed like a half a dozen of those for you. You're done. We're done, okay? Be cool. And he goes, no, you be cool. And he tried to pick a fight with me right there. And he's not even a big guy. I'm 6'3", 240 pounds. I'm a big dude.
Right.
And I'm a fighter. I'm a scrapper. I've been fighting my whole life, in and out of the ring. And I'm thinking, maybe he wants to get noticed. Maybe he does want to end up on the internet. I don't know, because it wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
And we actually almost got into blows. And finally the cops stepped in, and they told him to get lost. And he was screaming and yelling and saying, I'm going to come back. I'm coming back. This isn't the end of it. So the rest of that whole afternoon and that evening, the cops had to surround me. Anytime I went to my trailer, I had to wait for like 2 or 3 cops to lead me across the street to my dressing room and then back out to the set again. We did that all afternoon.
Oh, my goodness.
It was the first time in my life where I felt threatened. Not because of this guy, but, he may return with a gun.
That's what I would worry about.
Right.
I mean,
who knows?
Crazy fans, right.
Crazy fans. And I went, wow. And that was actually my first encounter with like a really bizarre fan encounter. And I went, because usually people are pretty cool.
I love the one that Billy Dean told us about sneaking backstage to the James Taylor concert by just driving his bus down backstage into the security area.
Yeah, it wasn't a story about a fan encounter with him, but he was the fan in
Right.
this scenario, which is pretty cool to hear also when the celebrity is a fan of somebody.
Yeah, it's a cute story.
My favorite one of all was the first time I met James Taylor. Now he is like my hero. He's my main go-to guy, and this was the funniest thing. I never met him. I've been to some of his concerts, but I was in my tour bus, in my big 45-foot Silver Eagle tour bus out in California with a night off, and the word was on the radio that James Taylor was in concert. We were right in the area where he was, and we went to get tickets, and it was sold out. And I was so disappointed. I was like, man, we got a night off. My bus driver said, well, we are in a tour bus. Why don't we just, about 3 o'clock, why don't we just drive around backstage to the gate? They might wait us right in, because we're in a bus. Well, that's exactly what happened. Now our bus is backstage, parked, and everybody's looking around like,
who's going to come out?
Right.
Did James get a new bus or something?
Where is there one too many buses back here?
Yeah, right. And we knew the routine because we did the same thing. It was 3 o'clock, load in, catering and all that. So they waved us in, and now nobody's willing to get off the bus. We don't want to get busted. And we sit on that bus for about an hour looking around through the curtains, and we see them loading in James's gear and all this stuff. And then finally, my bus driver recognized one of James's drivers, and they were good pals. And my bus driver went off and connected with him and told him that we were big fans of what had happened. And they set up special chairs for us, and they got a nice laugh. And James could have been more gracious. He remembered each one of my band members' names.
Wow. Shook
hands with them after the show, and it could have been more gracious. And it's just how big of a fan we were. We just were determined. It's scary when you meet one of your heroes. You don't know if they're going to be, nice or not, or how they're going to feel about fans. But he was very gracious, and I was very pleased of that. But that was one of my funniest encounters, how we snuck into that with our big tour bus.
Billy Dean also shared his favorite fan moment that he witnessed while he was on stage.
One lady got in a fight with her husband right in front of the stage. I will never forget this. It was the week that Somewhere in My Broken Heart went number one. We were playing a big festival, and she was just all about Billy Dean, man. And her husband or her boyfriend was so jealous and so mad.
Oh my gosh!
I'm singing this song, and I'm watching all of this unfold in front of me. She gets mad at him. She storms off to this porta toilet, and he proceeds to start rocking the toilet and turning it over while she was in there, all in the middle of Somewhere in My Broken Heart. And I'm turning around, I'm going, did you just see this is crazy stuff right here. That's maybe the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Did you watch her come out?
No, man. We actually, they actually, the crowd of people went around that thing, and I couldn't see from there. So I don't know what happened after that.
Gosh.
But we wrapped up the song pretty quick. I don't know what happened.
The week after, we interviewed Jessie Chris, another country music artist, and she told us about crazy things that happened to her at meet and greets.
Oh my gosh. There's definitely been quite a few, interesting ones. I get a lot of marriage proposals from 12-year-old boys.
That's awesome.
So that's always funny.
Do they come with rings?
One kid and folded it into a ring and gave it to me because he didn't have a ring. But a lot of the younger fans get really cute because, sometimes they didn't come prepared with something for me to sign, and so they just find whatever they can for me to sign, like maybe a body part or one kid it was an outdoor show, and he went into the woods and grabbed this piece of wood, and he was like, "Can you sign this?" Oh. So kids are really cute, and they get creative, and I love seeing them. They always surprise me. Every time there is something that I leave there laughing about, I'm like, that was awesome.
That reminds me of Stephanie Rice. She also has crazy meet and greet stories to share with us.
This past couple of shows, I've actually had fans come and bring me personal gifts, which has been really cool. There's one fan who lives in Mexico. She lives in Tijuana, and she's driven hours to all my shows in California so far. And she's had bracelets made for me for protection. I have one woman in New York. She came and she knew I was a fan of Jane Goodall, and she got me a stuffed primate because she knew I was such a fan, which is really, really cool. And I had this one fan who couldn't attend a show, but she had her friend attend the show, and she watched the entire show via FaceTime on an iPad. And then we actually took a selfie together, me holding the iPad, which was really kind of cool.
How cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. And as far as crazy, I've been proposed to by a fan quite seriously, and I said that I was taken, and the response was, "I don't see anyone next to you." So I went and quickly grabbed my fiance, and I said, "She's right here." And,
don't mess with me.
Yeah, and they proceeded to just walk away. So that was interesting. But I think who takes the slot as number one fan is I just had a fan get a tattoo of my signature on their arm.
Really?
Wow.
And they sent me this really sweet message and said that, some people think she's crazy for getting a name tattooed on her, but what my name symbolizes hope to her, and that I've made it okay for her to be who she is. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, and also feel like that puts, it makes me want to live up to that, each and every day of oh gosh, I'm on someone's, my name is on someone's body permanently, and I want to be everything that it represents to them. I've also been asked to sign underwear and bras, and I'm just this, I don't even know what to say right now.
I'm not comfortable with this. Thank you, though.
Have you ever declined?
Yeah, I have some great fans, though.
Have you declined to autograph weird things like that? Underwear?
I've definitely declined signing body parts, and I won't go to that extent. But if if the underwear is I guess, protruding from the pants, and it has, it's not like ridiculous, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
You're like, I don't want to see too much.
Those are great fan encounters.
It always makes me laugh that that's what people want to sign.
Yeah.
Want me to sign.
It's as much as it makes you laugh, it's entertaining to hear about too.
Because I just want to know, what do you go home and then frame those underpants, or do you can't wash them? Do you put that bra behind glass? What goes
I
on
hope they're
there?
washing them.
What was your thought process when you said to do that?
Be like, here's the dirty underwear I wore to Stephanie Rice's concert. Those are some crazy meet and greet stories. One guy who said he doesn't have fans came in episode number 2, Michael Pfeiffer. And the thing about this was he was he was the second interview we did, but the very first one that we got to see him while he was doing it. So he had to lock himself in his guest bedroom because there was action at his house and things were going on. And, behind the scenes thing was that he was sitting up in this bed. And if you don't know where he was, you wouldn't understand. When he would get really excited about something, the headboard would bang against the wall.
Yeah, it was cute.
And so, you guys listening at home were just like, what is that banging noise?
What is that noise?
And we never really explained it, but it was because the headboard was banging against the wall when he was moving on the bed. But super funny. But anyway, he did tell us a story about a time when someone was praising his work unknowingly to him, and he got to reveal that the work that the fan loved was his.
I really miss doing DVD commentaries. We don't do them anymore because DVDs don't really sell anymore.
Right.
But I think DVD commentaries were really cool. And I always enjoyed talking about movie making on DVD commentaries. And once I was producing a music video for a Panasonic product. And we had this really cool, Lincoln Continental car that was a very expensive, immaculate 1960s Lincoln Continental or something. And the guy who owned it was babysitting it. He was just there making sure we didn't hurt it.
Right.
And we started talking movies. I said, well, what do you do other than, your cars? He says, well, I try to produce movies and things. And we started talking about it. And we started talking about DVD commentaries. And he says to me, there's this one DVD commentary, and it's my favorite one. And I listen to it all the time. And I get so much information out of it. And I can't believe how this guy just, says so much. And I really learned from it. And I'm like, what's that? And he said, it's Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. I'm like, what?
That's you.
I'm the commentary.
I'm the guy you're learning from.
Crazy. It was a crazy coincidence.
One of my favorite ones was Bill Nabel, the gentleman who did every performance of
Beauty and the Beast. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And he tells us a story of something funny that happens backstage during a live performance.
With none other than Tom Bosley, who is best known for his role on Happy Days.
Tom was fun because I had part of my staging. He was sitting up on the invention waiting to ride out on stage, and I was standing there. So we would chit chat, and we were talking one day, and it was just before his entrance, and I guess they switched his mic on a little early.
Oh no!
Oh gosh!
The conversation somehow morphed into talking about Star Trek and William Shatner. And, so we're talking, and, William Shatner, the subject of William Shatner comes up, and apparently his mic went on precisely at the time we said, yeah, Bill Shatner, he's the biggest asshole.
Oh,
no! Oh, man.
Right out in the house.
Oh, it's a hot mic. Oh, no.
And, but...
How do you recover from that?
No, you just go out, stuff happens,
Gosh. That's hilarious.
I think that's why audiences, when stuff like that happens, audiences like it even more because, it's a window into, the human side of people.
That is great.
When stuff goes wrong, people love it, but that was one thing that I remember. The wonderful thing about him saying that is that he's the last person that you would think would say anything like that about anybody.
Right.
He was just the nicest guy, but Bill Shatner pushed his buttons, and somehow it pushed the sound man's buttons too, and went out in the house.
That's funny.
Bill Nabel's certainly a part of Beauty and the Beast for so long, and another person we interviewed that was a part of a show for a very long time, and it kind of defined their career, was Linda Gray.
Yes.
And it seemed like when you're a part of something for so long, it becomes one of those things where you know that's what people always want to talk about. So it's kind of what you always talk about. And some of those stories always outweigh some of the other ones that they even think of because they're like, oh, everybody wants to hear about Dallas. I'm just going to talk about that. So she had some good moments from when Dallas was going on. And this was about what was going on with the fans of Dallas during the Who Shot JR period.
And I think that one of the weirdest things were a lot of women during the Who Shot JR era, they were giving birth to the babies in hospitals, and they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't leave their rooms to go have the baby because they not yet. The baby has to wait because we have to see Who Shot JR. I mean, crazy things like that. That we all thought was pretty funny and a little bit scary. It's like, no, there's a baby coming.
Oh, I just loved our time with Linda Gray. She was so fun.
Yeah, she was.
Another one I thought was a little bit too close to home was Johnny Alonso, who's a friend of yours, and we would know him from Dawson Creek or One Tree Hill. He talks a little bit about something that happens a little close to his home.
Yeah, a stalker he had.
Yeah, that's scary.
That is not cool. So let's hear about that.
Fans are what make you or break you, and sometimes you will have stalker fans. And oh my God, I had this one. I can't mention names, but I mean, I had this one. Yeah, I can't mention names, but I've had one stalker that was, I mean, just to the point where literally, if I put something on social media, they would answer immediately. And they said that they lived in this, I can't remember, like in Florida or whatever. Come to find out, the real location was maybe 5 blocks down from Mission Beach. I mean, it was that
where
crazy.
You go every
day. Yeah, I'm not kidding. So that's why every time I'd say something, I guess, it would pop up immediately on their feed. They knew where I was, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I've been to that place before." I'm thinking, how the hell have you been to this coffee house when you're in
Florida?
Lady Lakes, Florida. Meanwhile, they're literally right around the corner. And I'd have parties at my place sometimes, and like sometimes there'd be this random person, and I'm like, man, that person keeps walking back and forth. This is kind of strange, dude. And it got to the point where I had to confront and said, "Hey." What's wrong with you? Do we know each other? You're Johnny Alonso. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm such and such. And I'm thinking, oh my God, wait a minute. You're from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram? Yeah. And I was like, yeah. I said, I thought you were on the East Coast. No. I just say I am. I'm like, that's
scary,
that's
man.
Weird. Yeah, no, it really was. And then after that interaction, I'm not kidding. I go to the Ralph, that's the supermarkets out here. I go to the Ralphs, or I go to I check out a surfing competition early in the morning. I swear to you, this person would be there, just watching me. I'm like, that's it, done. So I never had to call the cops, but I had to confront, and I had to be a little more of the East Coast me. And I said, look, this is going to have to stop, because if not, I'm calling my Uncle Louie back in Brooklyn, and you're not going to want that to happen. And that was it. No, dude, it was bad. I mean, it's kind of scary. So I can only imagine what it's like for women. Yeah. I can only imagine what it's like, dude. It's I don't know how a lot of women handle it, and women have it all the time. Guys are weird like that. But I mean, this woman, whatever, was just a little out of control. And to this day, I still feel kind of bad because I don't like telling people off. Right. It's not me, Yeah, I mean, you give me a few whiskeys, and yeah, definitely I'll tell anybody off. But that was just, I had to put my foot down, and I was like, look, I'm an actor when I'm on set and when I'm getting paid.
Right.
But other than that, I'm just me. And I'm living my life as you should be living your life, just doing your own thing. So, it's kind of invading my space. I'm trying to say this to you as nicely as possible. And it was very hard to let this person down. I just kind of snapped and I said, look, stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours. Yeah. And that was the end of it.
So Johnny Alonso just got greenlit for Coffin 3. They're really going to make that movie.
Oh, yay.
Because Elizabeth does not watch scary movies. But for me and fans of the Coffin series, this is the third one. And It's happening, folks. So it's pretty cool. Another surreal experience is one we heard from Brian Volkweiss, who is the CEO of Comedy Dynamics, who had worked with pretty much every famous funny man you can think of, or funny woman. And he had a surreal experience meeting someone from Facebook.
I mean, I don't have like fans, but I do have, and I mean, I can't even believe this is true. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I mean, there are people, there are comedy nerds, and I'm a comedy nerd, so I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. But there are comedy nerds who I talk to every day on Facebook, and a couple of times now. It happened for the first time, I think, last year. We were in Cleveland shooting Tom Papa, and after the show, I was walking out, and someone came up to me who I'd only known on Facebook, and it was a pretty surreal,
a little freaky,
and that's happened probably 3 or 4 times since. But no, I literally, like I said, I get emails and Facebooks.
Okay.
I'd say between 1 and 10 times a day now from strangers that just want to talk about comedy. So that is that's definitely really, 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 really cool.
Probably depending on their message is whether or not you respond to them or not.
I would say I'm into 99 out of every 100 emails or Facebook messengers.
Oh, that's good. That's
cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Now,
It's important. It's a lot of these people are aspiring comedians, and I just think it's very important that it's funny. Woz of Apple fame. I read this thing he said where he said patting somebody on the back at the right moment could bring about like the thing which makes your company become a multi-billion-dollar company. And he was like, it's just a pat on the back at the right moment. And I'm butchering this. I don't remember exactly what he said, but a pat on the back at the right moment, can change that person's life and even your own. And as somebody myself who's received many pats on the back when I needed it, I just think it's very important to engage, especially up-and-coming comics, as they're trying to figure out a lot of stuff, especially if they don't live in LA or New York and don't have an agent or manager. This is a pretty wacky business, getting wackier by the month.
So going from a guy who works with funny people to a guy who is a funny person, Romesh Ranganathan was on our show, and he had a lot of stories that hit close to home.
He tells us about his fans that go from being nice to super aggressive.
Quickly.
Yes.
But you do get like weird things. Like I had one night out. So in England, I live in a smallish town, and so I've got all of my friends that sort of still live around the area. So every now and again, when I go back and I've got a night off, I'll go out and catch up with them. And we're out for a drink, and this guy came up to me and said, like a group of lads, must have been like early to mid-20s, and they said, oh, can we have our photos taken and stuff like that? I said, of course, and then they started asking me about how my evening was, and I said, yeah, it's fine, and then they went away. Then they came back again and sort of made a couple of jokes and quoted some stuff back, and then they went away, and then they came back and they said, can we join you for the evening? And I said, I was sort of being polite, but I said to them, that sounds great, guys, but we are still strangers. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not friends.
Right.
And then they just got very angry, and they sort of started saying that I thought I was. I don't know. They weren't angry. It wasn't like they didn't get aggressive. They just went, "Oh, I didn't realise you'd be like that. Didn't realise you'd be like that," and then just sort of wandered off. And then later on, I was sort of outside. This is a very long story, isn't it? But I was outside the pub at the end of the night, and one of the characters says, "My friend says you're not very funny." And then I said, "Well, I don't think your friend's very funny either." It's not my best comeback. I'm not going to lie, but it was the only thing I could think of at the time. And then he said, "Why being like that? Why being like that? You've really got arrogant." And I said, "I'm just repeating back to you what you said to me. I mean, this is crazy." Do you know what I mean? It's just so it went from very, very pleasant and nice to horrendous. Do you know what I mean? And that seems to happen to me a lot in the UK. Like, I was out for an anniversary drink with my wife at our local pub, and you can see pubs play a big part in this. But anyway, I was sort of I was at the pub, and a guy came up to me and he said, "You're that comedian, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Can you tell me a joke?" And I said, "Well, I don't really have jokes. Sort of just moan a bit."
Right.
Because they're not really jokes. And he said, "We'll do one now." And I said, "Well, I don't really." I said, "I'm just sort of having a drink here." And he goes, "No, do a joke." And I said, "Well, I don't really want to do a joke." He goes, "You're not funny in real life, are you?" And I said, "No." I said, "No, I'm not." And then he calls his girlfriend over and he said, "I told you wouldn't be funny. Look, he's not funny." And then she went over and grabbed like a little a child carrier seat thing with a baby in it. And she said, "This is my baby." It's very surreal, this conversation. I said, "Right." I said, "Great." I said, "Do a joke about my baby."
What?
And I said, "Well, I can't really just do a joke. I don't know your baby." And then she said, "Just do a joke about my baby." I said, "I don't know, it's ugly." And then she said, "That's not a joke." And then they just sort of started telling me how they thought I wasn't funny and not a nice person in real life. And then I just said, "Okay, I'm just going to go off and enjoy my anniversary drinks, thank you." And then I just let them do it.
That's so weird.
You know, I do have positive interactions as well, but those are two that stick out.
Encounters with fans are always different for each celebrity. And Elizabeth, while you were on Christmas vacation, I got to talk to Dee Dee Costine from Daddy's Home 2.
Yes.
Great interview with her and her dad. She talks about her very first fan encounter with a group of kids at the mall.
Well, my first encounter at the mall, it was my first one ever, and they followed me from the van store to another store, and then they were like, "Are you the girl from Daddy's Home?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Hee, I knew it. And then I just slowly walked away. I was just like, and then I just started walking away slowly.
So they didn't ask for an autograph or a picture or anything? They were just kind of...
No, I just walked away.
What I found most interesting about Dee Dee's interview is the fact that, she's a young kid, but she doesn't really get why people think she's a big deal.
I'm also in school, normal school, not homeschool. It's kind of funny because I was actually in the newspaper for school, and now everybody knows who I am in school. And it's kind of weird because everyone just stares at me while I walk, and I'm just like, "Hello."
Oh, you're like, it's still just me. I'm the same person.
Just me.
As far as fan experiences go, another one of our guests had an encounter with a celebrity that he was a fan of.
So Brandon Jarrett, who is a songwriter.
Yep, and music producer. He scores a lot of movies for Lifetime and Hallmark and Ion.
And tells us about a story where he ran into someone that he is a fan of and kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah, big time, I think.
I've never really been a person who got starstruck. It's odd. I'm like, not like, like, oh my gosh, that's that person.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I did discover that I do get more starstruck over sports people than I do.
Okay.
do over actors. Like if I see, I remember the first time I saw Magic Johnson.
Oh,
and
sure.
actually my partner, Tommy Redder, who's in New York right now, Tommy, who was in Billy Elliot, when he and I were on Ventura Boulevard at, it was whatever the juice place is at the time. It might have been Jamba Juice.
Uh-huh.
And we're standing in line, and then you can kind of feel like the windows in Jamba Juice go all the way to the ceiling, and it was sunny, and it's California, so it's always sunny. And
rub that in, thanks.
Like when we're sitting, yeah, right. Yeah, it's going to be 91 degrees here this week, right?
Please stop talking. It snowed on Sunday.
But so anyway, we were standing there talking, and then it felt like sort of like when it gets cloudy,
mm-hmm.
and the light kind of goes away because the cloud, like a small cloud moves over, and Tommy goes, "Dude," he goes, "Look," he goes, "You're not gonna believe who's standing behind us." He goes, "Look, it's him. It's Magic."
It's him.
And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And so I just kind of just briefly look around, and it's like, it's Magic Johnson standing right behind us in line at Jamba Juice or whatever that juice place was.
So did you buy him his juice? Don't tell me you didn't.
Well,
come on.
No, we didn't stalk him or anything.
I was
but,
going to say, free
but we did
juice
shake
might
his
have
hand.
meant some courtside seats.
Yeah.
You'll never know now, though.
So Brandon completely messed that up.
I would have bought Magic Johnson a Jamba Juice.
I would have too. So one of the gentlemen we had on early in our fan counter experience, I think it was one of our first couple of episodes, was Michael Mays. And you would know him from Blue Bloods, Happy, Gotham, and he tells us a story about being recognized.
At a restaurant of all places.
I know.
I'm like, because I wouldn't want to be bothered if I'm eating a meal and being stared at. That's just weird.
I think for me, it's a bit general in that I noticed a huge difference when I started working in New York than LA. LA is a little bit more widespread and kind of everyone's an actor, everyone's in the entertainment industry. But in New York, everyone's doing something different and people are very passionate and vocal about what they do. So, and Blue Bloods, surprisingly, I think I was recognized for Blue Bloods more than anything else because it's such a highly watched show, especially for New Yorkers.
Right.
And when that aired, up until now still, because Blue Bloods, I think it even has its own cable station or something.
It does. Ion Television.
People will just stop me in the middle of nowhere. I'll be on a subway or I'll be just walking down the street and be like, "Hey, Blue Bloods!"
Wow.
Nice.
Like, oh yeah, Blue Bloods. I mean, one episode of Blue Bloods. Who knew? But then from that, the other shows that I started doing there, Blacklist and Mr. Robot, I continually will get stopped in New York to be like, "Hey man, Mr. Robot, it's such an amazing show." And I think once I was at probably. This isn't that crazy of a thing, but I was at a restaurant, I think, last year, and this woman saw me. She was there with her family. They were there from Long Island. It was like 2 sisters and 4 kids or something. And she saw me, and she came over. She's like, "Hey, you were on Blue Bloods, weren't you?"
Oh, my gosh.
I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, See, Joanne, I told you he was the one on Blue Bloods. Come over here. And then she, took her sister and her 4 kids. And, "Can I take a picture?" We're gonna. Oh, my God. And it was just like the event of their lives from this one guest star in Blue Bloods. So it just shows you it doesn't really matter.
So you're okay with those kind of things? That doesn't set you off as far as oh, this is interrupting my meal and it's a big inconvenience.
No, not at all. I'm very open to it, and I think it's part of the game and part of just the scenario, and I'm all for it.
So Michael Mays liked being recognized in restaurants, didn't think it was that big of a deal. But our next guest messes with fans who he meets when he's with some of his famous friends. And that is Alex Paunovic. You'd know him from War for the Planet of the Apes, and he also is in the show Van Helsing, and he had a story about acting like Secret Service.
I haven't had many creepy experiences face-to-face with fans, but definitely one of my best friends is Tom O'Pennicott. So when him and I go out, he was on Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
So he gets quite a bit of fan people coming up to him, and every time when I see a fan coming up to him, I'll literally kind of stand a little taller and fold my hands and then put my finger to my ear and just kind of pretend I'm his bodyguard, and then I would rush him into a car. He can't talk right now, and grab him. And it's actually quite funny to see a fan go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Then we kind of let them in on the joke. But I had an experience. I went to the Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao fight, and I went and got a beverage, and I was waiting for my friend to come back from the bathroom. So I'm just waiting there, and this big guy walked by me, and he just grilled me. He was just staring at me in a very kind of furrowed eyebrow look as he walked by. And I thought it was really peculiar, and he almost seemed aggressive. And I'm standing there, and he walks by, then he stops, turns around, looks at me again, and then starts fast walking at me.
Ooh.
And so I immediately, coming from a boxer's background, I immediately put my beer down and get in my boxing stance. And he comes up to me and he goes, "I love you," and I zombie. And he walked away. I was like, "Don't do that, man. I thought I was going to fight you."
Oh my gosh.
Those are headlines you don't want the next day.
He was just so perplexed at how do I know that guy? So he had more of that, like when I think about it. But at first I thought, I think this guy wants to fight me at a boxing match fight. So
oh my gosh.
He's probably getting a little worked up with all the fights. So maybe he wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan. So that was one of my favorite experiences.
Celebrity stardom isn't always what it's cracked up to be. We interviewed 12-year-old twins Bianca and Chiara D'Ambrosio, who have appeared on a lot of television shows, and we were very impressed by how well-spoken they were. In this clip, they talk about how they deal with online bullies.
I mean, there's some people that would love to give hate, and, that's what they do for a living. They like to hate on people, but I never take it to heart because they're just saying it because they're probably jealous that we're starting at such a young age. I mean, even if it is kids, they're probably just, trying to, they're probably dealing with something, and they're trying to get it out on people. And I always think that I know my self-worth, and I don't take anything to heart.
Yeah.
And they just, they, comment on their stuff, and I just don't listen to them.
One of the guests we interviewed that was not a celebrity, but worked with them, was a photographer named Will Von Bolton, who was on tour with various bands like Bowling for Soup and R5. And when he was with R5, he had an experience with a fan.
He does. He tells us about taking out a fan.
Ouch.
This is one of those times that I kind of feel bad about, but it happened. But, after the show that all these fans, ran on the stage at the end of the show, it got a little crazy. And we were backstage somewhere in Europe, and it was one of those backstages where you have to walk up 5 flights of stairs to get to your room.
Okay.
And so right after the show, all the security, everyone starts screaming, "Somebody stop her! Somebody stop her!" And I turn around, and there's this, young teenage fan, and I just instinctually put my shoulder down as she's running up the stairs because I'm the only person between her and the band.
Oh, no.
1 flight of stairs. And I don't mean to, but it's just such an instinct thing when you're in these situations. And I felt, she was okay and it didn't hurt her, but it was just she just turned around and she was like, "Worth a try," and she just went back and lived her life.
Oh my gosh.
And but yeah, it was crazy.
I'm sure she's still telling that story too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about, and I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned. It's all about having stories, and I'm so thankful for the camera that's just giving me all these crazy stories.
His next experience that he had was verified by Ellington Ratliff when we interviewed him, but Will told us about the time the band R5 was at a meet and greet for 300 people, and 2,000 people showed up.
There's this one time we were in Argentina, and it was just crazy. We were staying at this really nice hotel, and every night there's about 40 or 50 fans that just spend the night outside, just waiting to see a glimpse of these people. And so we were going to a signing that morning, and so as we were leaving the hotel, about 40 or 50 of these fans just start running as fast as they can, trying to just touch one of the band members. And they actually tried to get in the van. So we got in the van, and as we were driving to this signing, we got a call from the fire marshal or someone that said that we have to be on hold because about 2,000 people show up to this signing. There was only supposed to be 300.
Oh.
And so we were just driving around Argentina. I think it was I can't remember the city. And there were fans and cars, following us all around as we were circling the city waiting for the okay, because we couldn't go back to the hotel, or we couldn't go anywhere. And so we finally get the okay to go to the signing. And so it was in a downtown area. And as we pull into downtown, a few of the fans see us. And then the next thing you know, we're in a literal ocean of fans. As far as you can see, it's like you're in water. And they just start banging on the Sprinter van as hard as they can. And it's your adrenaline's pumping. This is a crazy situation. And then all of a sudden, one of them gets in the back of the van because it was unlocked. And it was just we had all our luggage, or some of our luggage back there, including my camera bag. And so it was just a crazy situation. We finally show up at the signing, and there's just security guards with M16 type guns just holding fans back. And
is this a scary situation for you guys, or are you kind of cool about it?
this is probably one of the more intense situations. There was a few more, but this was a memorable one. And so we just kind of have to run through this like security guard, just like little path of this, all these fans to get in this little bitty store because there's only one way in and one way out. And I mean, it starts getting crazy, and it's an entire glass wall in the front. And so they finally have to, tell everyone to leave. We finally leave because they're going to push down this glass wall.
Oh my gosh!
So as we leave, it was the same type of situation. And I have long blonde hair, and so does Raydell, the singer in the band. And they pull both of our hair as we get back into the van, and we're driving away. I know it got animal for a minute. And as we're driving away, we look into the window because we can see the reflection of this white Sprinter van that we're in. And Rocky, the guitarist, he says, "I think they tagged our van."
Oh no!
And I get out, and there are 100 Twitter handles like saying "I love Ross," all these kind of things. And it's just all permanent marker all over this van. Completely has to do it. Everyone was like, "Who's going to pay for this paint?"
Oh my gosh!
Job, I mean, but yeah, that was a pretty intense one.
I still want to know who paid to have the van cleaned up.
Those poor people. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, it's not even their van, and they rode all over it.
That's why we have insurance.
Yikes.
Hopefully. So I was a super fan on one of our episodes. It's a show that I'd been watching from the very beginning, Teen Mom OG, as it's now known. And we had Deborah Danielson on. Super nice lady.
Yes.
And someone called her out and wasn't prepared for the response.
I had one lady write me, "I'm making you a quilt. I'm making you a quilt. This is it." Takes a picture of it. And I go, "Oh my God, that's incredibly gorgeous. I can't even believe you made something like this." And I said, "I'm so honored, but I don't even know if I should accept it because, I would just feel guilty because
That's
obviously
a lot of work.
she put a lot of work
Yeah.
and money, and I'm very cognizant of that." So she goes, "Well, I decided not to send it to you because I think you're a fraud."
What?
Yeah, and I'm like, "Okay, man, I'm like the realest thing in the world." So she kind of diverted it to whether or not I was a real or a fake. And I said, "Look, you look at my Facebook, you look at my Twitter, they're verified accounts."
Yeah.
And come to find out, she was going to school for criminal justice in Canada. She's a Canadian. And I'm like, "You know what, ma'am, you take the quilt. Please go donate it to a homeless shelter for women and children. I think they would really love that. And, if you want to put my name on it, that's cool for the donation. I don't care. But you know what? I'm the real thing. And I really feel sad that you think I'm a fraud."
We also wanted to know, what do fans say to Deborah Danielson when they approach her?
First of all, they say, "We love you. You're so sweet." And, that I have a big heart. And that touches me. And then they hug me and, they go, "We wish you were our mom. We wish you could be our grandmother," whatever,
Yeah.
which is really endearing to my heart. I mean, God, how wonderful is that, right?
Yeah.
And most people want to know how Farrah's doing, how Sophia is, things of that nature. But a lot of people do talk about how they relate to the show and they relate to the mom and daughter interaction. There's a lot more of that goes on in our world than maybe we want to admit,
And last week on the show, we had John Ruckman, who is going to be on Law & Order SVU. He tells us a story where reality and television, the lines start to blur.
I did a commercial. It was like "The More You Know,"
Okay.
and it was about underage drinking. And as you know, as I said earlier, I'm a realtor, and they aired this right before the big realtor convention down at Ocean City, Maryland.
Oh, no.
And here I am, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. "Did you really get pulled over? Are you really having a problem with drinking? Can I help?" I mean, it's like 100 phone calls just like that. I'm like, "No, I'm an actor. This was a commercial."
John's no stranger to weird fan encounters. Here's one he had at a restaurant.
I had an odd one happen a long time ago. And now, if you've seen my stuff, I'm kind of a big guy. I weigh 240-ish, 235-ish, 240-ish. And I had this guy run up to me and bear hug me. Now, I don't know what that would do for you, but for me, it was kind of, I was like creeped out. I'm like, why is this guy bear hugging me? That was one. And then there are other times.
What did he say when he bear hugged you?
I was going to say, did he say anything, or is he just coming straight at you?
Oh, no. He was big smile on his face. He bear hugged me, and I'm like, and I was in a restaurant when it happened, and I'm like, okay. And I was with my mother. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with that guy? And while we're eating, he's like smiling at me and all this other stuff, and my mom's like, oh, he's special. Don't worry about him. Well, at the end of that, he finally says, I just saw blah, 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 blah. It was a commercial I had done or something. I just saw that commercial. The moment I walked in, and here you walked in, oh, my God, it's so happy to see you.
One of the things that John Ruckman did that was really funny is he's part of this John Q. Rhodes program.
Right.
For some highway patrol or highway thing. Anyway, the recent picture this week was John eating a humongous sandwich. Which is really
while
funny.
driving?
No, it's just a picture of him eating this huge sandwich. So if you look up John Q. Rhodes on Facebook, it's their page for this fictional character. It's just pretty funny, that's all. I thought it was a good mention because it'll provide you with a good laugh today.
Yes.
So we want to thank you for listening for the last 25 episodes to Fancounters, and we've got a great 25 more coming up, and even more after that. But each 25 episodes, I think it's important to take time just to relive those fan stories, because that is what we're all about.
That's right. And I want to thank all of you who are listening with us about the fact that sometimes it may not be the guest that you were expecting or wanted to hear, but each guest, although different genres, has a fantastic story to tell and is worth the hour of your time.
Yep, and we bring on every kind of entertainment industry professional, from Broadway, singers, actors, you name it.
Movies.
Yeah, movies, television, we've got it all. So you never know who we're going to have on. You can always find us on Facebook at facebook.com/fancounters. The biggest thing I want to ask you is, can you share our episode with your friend, maybe on their Facebook page? If you share one of our posts, I'll see who did it, and I'll be able to give you a shout out on the show. But we would love if we could make this show go viral. And,
yes, please.
And really, because I think we're changing perceptions of celebrities by bringing them down to this real point where we're finding out what their daily life is like, and what it's, we even get some behind the scene moments, but then it's also what have their fan encounters meant to them. And I think that is pretty important.
I do too.
So have a great week, everybody. We'll be back next Friday with an all new episode.
Bye.